What was the best day in your life in terms of numbers?
The biggest day was 150,000.
In a single day?
In a single day.
Okay.
I think something that is a skill of mine that honestly anybody can have, it just takes practice, is like feeling that fear and then still doing the thing that you want to do anyways.
What are the fears and doubts you have right now?
I never worked past like 6 p.m. I hardly ever, even at the beginning, worked weekends. So all of that to say is like there are ways to kind of like simplify and streamline, and I feel like a lot of new entrepreneurs are working really hard on a lot of things that don't matter.
And I see this with so many people. There's this like, I need to prove that I'm enough. I need to work, and they can't go on a holiday. That's the advice I would tell my younger self.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when I started, I wish we could have a couple of my friends here. I could not relax. When I was at the beach, I was thinking about work.
Yeah. Well, so how did you change that?
Amie, it's such an honor to be here with you. It's really special. I'll tell you why. I say it every single time. It's a really special episode. But in your case, it's extra special. I started following you when I was in the hospital. And I don't know how I found you, but I needed positivity around me. Like if you can imagine, or everybody can think, what it's like to be in a hospital where most people fight for their life. And I wanted success stories. I wanted people who are like full of energy so that I could focus on that. Like there was so much, just dark energy, and it's hard, it's tough. So I wanted people around me who bring me joy. And I found your profile. And I started watching your stories and listen to your podcasts. And now we're sitting here.
Oh my gosh.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Like this when I was driving to the studio here, I was like, wait a second. Life is wild sometimes.
That is really a full circle moment. Well, I'm so excited to be here, and that's amazing. It makes me so happy like that I was able to provide the positivity that was helpful to you in that time. So
1,000,000%. We played tennis the other day, and so many of my friends responded, I love Amie, you see Amie. And I'm like, why do people love Amie so much?
I don't know. Do they? Well, it's nice. It's nice to hear because, I mean, I'm sure you get this too, like being a person on social media, like sometimes you get so many like positive comments, but then occasionally you'll get like a negative one here and there, and like those, if you're not careful about like what it does to your mindset, like those ones really stand out. So it is really nice to hear from you that there are people out there that enjoy what I'm doing.
I'm 100% sure there are people criticizing you for things which are the reason why I resonated so much with you. You being unapologetically yourself, like really this is me, this is who I am, love it or don't.
Yeah.
And I loved it, or I still love it.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why my friends love it, because you talk about things that many people don't think about, or like don't talk about. I think what you stand for is big energy, like big thinking energy, like why not me? Mm-hmm. And that, especially during that time, for many people it would have been triggering, because like I was in a room by myself, but there was this person who just like so much like sweet energy, and I can confirm in real life it's the same.
Oh,
just
thank
sweet
you.
and kind, and hey, it's absolutely possible for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, that's like what I hope to portray, not only like is what I've done possible for anybody else, but the message of like authenticity of like who you are is what makes you special. And like, even if that doesn't look the same as like what my truth is, whatever yours is, like it's okay to show. I mean, even thinking about coming to this podcast today, I was a little bit in my head because I had Pilates right before this, I told you. And I was like, I need to go home and like make sure I like look a certain way. And then I was like, you know what? It's fine. Like I authentically me is like, listen, I just came from Pilates and I want to do this podcast and I don't want to push it back. And yeah, my hair might be a little bit greasy, but I am who I am. So the message is going to be the same.
Yeah. I remember those, and maybe that's something we can start with. I remember seeing those pictures from you just starting. I think it was Hawaii. You're living in a hut.
Yep.
And seeing you now and then back then, I like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that. But give us a bit of context. What do we know? What do we need to know about your past, about your upbringing to get the full picture?
Yeah, so I like to share that kind of like origin story of my business a lot because I think a lot of people, if they just start following me right now, they might see this very like luxurious lifestyle, me living in LA and like driving a nice car and traveling the world. And, you know, I make it look a certain way. And that is my life, but I also like to show where I came from, which, like you said, was living in Hawaii in a literal hut. Like when I say that, a lot of times people don't think I'm like exaggerating, but I'm like, no,
we'll
it was
a picture right now.
No,
here.
it's an actual hut.
It's
I lived
hut.
as a minimalist. Like we didn't have we like the bathroom was outdoors, the shower was outdoors. We didn't have a kitchen. It was about 120 square feet.
How much was rent?
It was like $800 a month
for a hut.
Which still seems like a lot, but in Hawaii, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at like what we were
and
actually living in.
You guys were already married?
Yeah, we were married at that time. And the reason why we did that, we made that choice, we had actually, previous to that, lived in Colorado. We basically sold like almost everything that we owned to move into that hut and live as minimalists because the goal was to reduce our expenses and pay off the debt that we had accumulated so that we could get to the point where like my business was supporting us and then we had the freedom to travel. And like we knew that we were never gonna, if we stayed like, you know, kind of keeping up with the Joneses, like living somewhere expensive, trying to do all the things, like we were never gonna get out of debt and be in that financial position that we wanted to be in. So we were like, let's do something that like most people are never going to do because on the outside it looks like, you know, you could make a lot of judgments about that. And I was just kind of like, I don't care. I don't care what people think about me. This is what we need to do to like get to the next level in my business and in our lives. And we did that for like 2 years while I started my business. And my business, at that time I was a nutritionist and I was creating nutrition courses and kind of got to the point with that we had paid off debt. My husband could quit his job and then we started traveling. So that was kind of the...
Where did the mindset come from? Like it sounds very almost easy when you say it, but if you don't mind, maybe, because I'm also just curious as a friend to hear what was your upbringing like?
Yeah, I mean, my upbringing was really, really great. I mean, my parents were amazing. I had a great childhood, but I wouldn't say, another thing that like I think people assume about me is that like maybe I had a trust fund or that I married a rich person or, you know, something like that. And
you hear that a lot.
A lot.
Like our trust fund.
People, I don't know, it's hard for people, I think, to acknowledge that like it's possible for somebody else to have done it on their own.
Do you hear it more from men or more from women?
I hear it more from men, which is really interesting. I almost feel like I trigger them more than women because I literally like, it is so rare for me to ever get a negative comment from a woman. So
really?
I don't know what it is. And I think it's opposite for other people. So maybe something about my energy is like kind of emasculating. I don't know. You tell me. I mean, obviously not to you. But yeah, sorry, I can't remember what your initial question was.
What was your upbringing like? But it sounds like you just had confidence and like you had faith that it will work out.
Yeah.
I'm just curious where it's coming from.
Yeah,
because it's something a lot of people, when they start doing anything that is extraordinary, they are maybe lacking that faith, like, oh, will it work out for me? And was that like ever part in your, what was your, if I would have been a fly in your head during that time, what would I have seen? Were you just like, okay, I'm gonna go to Hawaii, I'm gonna make this thing work, I'm gonna make nutrition courses, and it's all gonna work out for me. I'm gonna become a millionaire and drive a nice G-Wagon.
Well, okay, so I think it's kind of both things are true. So I've always been somebody who's been like a big dreamer and like I want to go after these like big goals and do big things. And I also have a lot of self-doubt and a lot of fear, I would say, about like if this doesn't work out, like what's that going to mean for me? Like what happens? But I think something that is a skill of mine that honestly anybody can have, it just takes practice, is like feeling that fear and then still doing the thing that you want to do anyways. Because like I thought about like, okay, am I going to be more regretful if I try this and it doesn't work out? Or am I going to be more regretful in 20 years thinking about all the things that I wish that I would have done, but I was too afraid of like failing, or I was too afraid of like if people thought I was broke or thought I was weird for being a minimalist or showing my face on Instagram? Because by the way, when I started, like nobody was doing that, first of all. They were like, I think my family was like, Amie, are you okay? Like, what are you doing? This is really cringy. And also, nobody knew what online courses were at that time either. So I literally...
When was that?
This was in 2017.
2017, okay.
So
7 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so my parents were like super supportive. My family was supportive, and they're kind of like, you know, I've always been a little bit kind of like, you know, dance to the beat of my own drum, like a little bit different than, you know, others in my family in terms of taking the traditional route. So they were supportive, but I think they were kind of like, we don't know what you're doing. Like, what is this? So, yeah.
Wild. So you're living in the hut. You're starting to create courses. 2017. That's 7 years ago. That's when I like. Yeah, that's also when I started posting on social media. I remember posting my first video. I was shit scared. About what people would think. And now I'm like, if I really think about it, like, my goodness gracious, Axel, why did you even care? Because the people who love you, they're gonna love you anyways. And the people who make fun of you, you don't want to have them in your life anyways.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful filter.
Yeah.
And so you're living in the hut, you're making your first courses. At what point did you realize, hey, this stuff is actually working? Like, people care. Because at the beginning, you probably had like a lot of doubts, no?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so many doubts, and also I had a tiny audience. So, I mean, there was, of course, every day I woke up and I'm like, you know, is this ever going to like result in anything, or am I just like working really hard for nothing? But yeah, I mean, I guess at the point when I realized, I remember this so vividly is, it was not the very first course I launched, because the very first one I worked on with a business partner, and I think we in total made like maybe 2,000 or 3,000. So it was like very small. But then we kind of like split off and did our own things, and I created another course and launched that. And I remember so vividly like doing that launch and making like $10,000 in a day, and that was like more money than I had ever had in my life, like to my name. And I was like jumping up and down, like, I don't know if you can cuss on this podcast, but that's what I was,
you can.
That's what I was thinking. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I am really onto something. This, not only like, is this information going to like help change people's lives with like the nutrition info that I'm sharing, but also, I mean, like, courses are changing my life. Like, now I can pay off debt. I can quit my serving job that I hate. My husband and I can maybe start traveling like we want to. So that was like really a turning point.
That was the proof you needed to see it's really working. Yeah. Is there any advice you would give Amie?
I like that. That's a cool name.
Right? That you would give Amie from 2017? Thinking about all the people who are listening right now and they're just starting.
Yeah, just start. I mean, I think you really have to hold the vision, because I think every day, and I mean, honestly, full transparency, I still have like, they're not the same sort of doubts and fears, but like, I think it's so normal to have that, but just knowing that like, it's okay that those are there, and you can still take steps towards the thing that you want or your future anyways. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would have been like really helpful to me. Another thing, that I was going to say that actually I used to practice all the time back then is visualization. That's something that I still do. And I know for some people, like, journaling is really helpful, or affirmation. So it's kind of like you have to find your thing. But for me, I have a very vivid imagination. So like, even sitting for like 3 minutes a day and just like closing my eyes and like imagining what my future self was doing and how she was living, and like literally to the smallest detail. And really feeling the excitement of like what that life would feel like, which is like literally my life now. It gave me the motivation that I needed every single day when I was like going to my serving job and feeling like, is this actually going to work out?
That visualization stuff actually really works.
It really does.
It's crazy, because I did the same thing. I still do it every day. But I remember living. So I was traveling for a couple of years. That's when I decided like I want to do this online thing. And for a time, I was working 2 jobs, living on my brother's couch, Actually, he was really sweet. He went on the couch and he gave me
Oh,
his
wow.
I have the best brother in the world.
That is so nice.
He's the nicest guy I've ever seen. And I remember sitting there and like visualizing and seeing exactly the life that I'm living right now.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you did the same thing. And there is this thing in your brain called RAS. Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
With reticular activating system. If you really focus on what you want, all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And your brain comes up with solutions without you even thinking about it.
Totally.
I had this. I went on a holiday with a person I really like. She's gorgeous, and her favorite car is a Mini Cooper. And I'm a bit of a romantic, so I'm going to the car rental place. I'm like, Mini Cooper, Mini Cooper, Mini Cooper, Mini Cooper. So I scanned the entire parking lot for a Mini Cooper. I'm like, I'm not leaving without a Mini Cooper. So I walk in to the guy, and he was, I think, from the Dominican Republic. I walk in, I'm like, mate, brother, you need to help me. There's this girl, I really like her. I need a Mini Cooper. And first thing he says, it's a car for girls. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Give me a Mini Cooper.
It's what she wants.
It's what she wants. We need a Mini Cooper. And he looks through his entire system for like 5 or 10 minutes. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. As much as I would love to help you, but we don't have it. Like all the Mini Coopers you see, they're all booked. And I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. There are no other Mini Coopers available, so I have to go for the next best thing, which is my favorite car. Beautiful white Mercedes. I'm like, okay, well, it's kind of my holiday. I mean, he is right. It's kind of good. So anyways, ended up with the Mercedes. The reason why I'm telling the story, for the next 2 weeks during this holiday, all I saw was Mini Coopers everywhere. Mini Cooper, Mini Cooper. Like I would see it everywhere. It's almost, we can do almost the same thing. That sounds like that's what you do every day. Like, this is what I want. So your brain starts looking for like ideas. Oh, this is what I could do. This is how I could create content. This is, I should do this.
Yeah.
And I should follow this person. This is helpful. So it sounds like such a tiny detail, but I would add that to the recipe book that we are writing here.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Visualizing success. Is there, so before I get into the details, I want to wrap up the story because I find it really inspiring. So you're in the hut with your husband. You're working job, side job?
So I worked as a cocktail server, and then in the mornings I would work on my course and my own business,
Okay, I want people to hear that because I know a lot of people probably follow you and they only see what is right now.
Right.
And at the beginning, whenever you start something, it's hard.
Yeah.
Like when you play paddle.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I try and be, again, really realistic about that because, and I like to be, I hope it's inspirational to people too that like, yes, it is hard work. And I think that when you're working on something that like you are really excited about, it doesn't feel as hard. You know, like for me, working a job for somebody else or continuing to go to that serving job was 1,000 times harder than working on my own business. So it does require work, but I think it also a lot of times is exciting and can propel you to keep going. And also I'm like, my name is Lazy Millionaire now. And so people are like, well, you're obviously not lazy if you built a business like that. And I'm like, I put in hard work, but I also never compromised. Like I never pulled all-nighters. I never worked past like 6 p.m. I hardly ever, even at the beginning, worked weekends. So all of that to say is like, there are ways to kind of like simplify and streamline. And I feel like a lot of new entrepreneurs are working really hard on a lot of things that don't matter. Spending 3 hours on your Canva font. It's like, that is not going to be the determining factor why somebody pays you or not. So just keep that in mind. Maybe that's tough love, but it is true.
That's the advice I would tell my younger self.
Yeah.
It's not always just like work smart.
Yeah.
What's the main thing here?
Yeah.
I think that's why I said hard. I think the hardest part for people and also for me when I started was that inner judge, that inner voice. Is this ever going to work out? Do people like it? And I'm so grateful that you mentioned it a couple of times during this conversation. You still have those thoughts. You still have moments of doubts. I want to hear a bit about it later because I'm the same. Like I've been doing this for God knows how many years, but still every day there's some kind of thoughts that are like, do I still have it? Am I still
Yeah.
good enough? Like, is this really helpful?
Do people even care about this?
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, boom, I need a
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
How do you call that?
Yeah.
Slap.
A slap.
Perspective slap.
Yeah.
Because you also, I'm sure, I don't know how it is for you, but you get used to numbers, to certain numbers.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, this only 20,000 people watched that thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a second. You don't remember the times when you were happy about 20
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
Just to wrap up the story, I'm curious, when did you move out of the hut?
When? So that was
Because
in...
huts and $1 million mansion in LA, there's somewhat
They're
of a...
quite different.
There's a gap. What happened?
Yes. So like I said, after my nutrition, like that course launch went really well. And then I had launched a couple more times before we moved out of the hut. So I think we moved out of the hut in like 2018. And then that was when Eric, my husband, and I started traveling full time. So for like the next 2 years, he started helping me with the business and we traveled full time, and continued to like grow and scale. And then moved to California in like 2020, right before COVID. And yeah, just continued to kind of grow and scale. And then in 2022, bought a house that looks much different than the hut in LA.
Bit bigger.
Much bigger.
I'm sure rent is higher.
Quite a bit higher, yes.
Okay, well, it's your place. So
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of growth during that period. What do you think was the main thing? Since you mentioned the main thing is to keep the main thing, and not to do 1 gazillion things. And I completely agree. If I look back, when I started, I worked 16-hour days.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would have been necessary.
Yeah.
Back then, I didn't know what my needle movers were. I was just trying to, if I'm being completely honest, and I see it with a lot of other people, we are trying to prove that we are enough by just doing and doing and doing. And once I realized, well, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
Unless I say it's enough.
Yeah.
'Cause sometimes I went to Italy. I know you love Italy.
love
I think you have some Italian blood.
Yes.
That's right. There was this one day I was staying for a certain period of time with a good friend of mine in Tuscany, and we were working together, and we were both very driven. I was working on my book and like different things, really passionate about it. We worked 13 hours on that day. And I had this voice coming up in my head. You should still do that one thing. Remember, you promised to do it. You didn't do it. It's not enough. And I shared it with him, and we started laughing because we had the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I see this with so many people. There's this like, I need to prove that I'm enough. I need to work, and they can't go on a holiday.
Yeah.
Because then, I have a couple of millionaire friends. They are scared shitless to go on a holiday. I remember having this conversation a couple of days ago with someone. It's like, this year my goal is to go on a 3-day holiday without my friend. I'm like, mate, that's, for most people, the most normal thing. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, turn off.
Yeah.
Is that really what life is about?
Yeah.
Maybe your answer is yes, but I don't think it's the truth for many people, and that's what I really like about you, because you're challenging that thought.
Well, thank you. I mean, and going back to like the mindset when I first started, that was what my mindset was, is like and like you said, I've been a big dreamer. To be fully transparent, I wanted to make a lot of money, but not at the expense of my free time or like my mental health. So I always had that. And I think sometimes people, when they're starting their business, maybe think that they have to give those things up in order to make a lot of money. And I was like, yeah, the money sounds amazing. I want that. But I care about my free time and the ability to travel and literally do whatever I want on any given day. That matters to me more than the money. And so I kind of created my whole business around that, which was like, I'm going to do these things that are going to make me successful, but only if they provide me the freedom and flexibility that I want, in addition to the money. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for many people.
I think also the hustle culture is so, I don't know if it's like praised, especially in America. Like people have kind of this addiction to working because, like you said, it like, let me show you how worthy I am. Let me show you how valuable I am. And I think a lot of times like the word lazy is actually really, really triggering to those people because they look at me and they're like, yeah, right. Like you're not lazy. And I'm like, I think that a lot of times people are just grinding their gears and not getting anywhere. So it's like, where can we find the balance between like strategic hard work that doesn't negatively impact like your quality of life?
And quality of work, I would even say. Because there was a time when I started, I wish we could have a couple of my friends here. I could not relax.
Yeah.
I was just working the whole time. Even when I wasn't working. When I was at the beach, I was thinking about work.
Yeah. Well, so how did you change that?
Life taught me.
Yeah.
Life taught me. I mean, it already got better over the years. I have to give credits, especially to a couple of women in my life who reflected, like Axel, maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
And for me, it was already a big thing to take like 10 days off and not be on my phone and turn social media off. But then I got another slap, perspective slap by life, because I almost died, and I was like, If I look back, I don't think for a single second like I wish I would have worked harder. I wish I would have worked more. I wish like the only wish was I wish I would have been more present at times. I wish I would have enjoyed life more. And I still have this voice sometimes. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? What do we really want to do today? So perspective, and at some point I realized I don't have to prove anything anymore. I don't have to prove my worthiness with work. And I think that's what many people do. They try to, you called it addiction. You can be addicted to work, and often it numbs something, like a feeling that you don't want to feel.
Yeah.
When I think about like a painful period of my time when I went through a breakup, like all I did was work to not feel it.
Well, it's a distraction.
Yeah, it's a distraction, exactly. Like, some people, when they have an argument, they go, I'm going to go work. I think I worked on myself and like really understood, okay, this whole feeling of not being enough is like, it's not a healthy thing to just work and work and work. And once I understood, okay, so even if you're a professional athlete, you need to take rest. Like otherwise you get hurt.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, maybe even rest is productive. When do I have my best ideas? It's not when I sit there and
Yeah.
It's when I go on a walk, when I'm at the gym, when I'm in the spa. That's when the best ideas come. So I'm like, okay, maybe there needs to be a better balance between me working and me resting.
Yeah.
And once I understood that, it just changed for me.
Well, I think that's a good point too about like, I feel like so many people, entrepreneurs, creatives are so burnt out. Like I hear everybody is dealing with burnout. And the one thing I think about that is like, if you feel super burnt out and uninspired and you don't feel like working, the best thing that you can do is take a break completely unrelated to work, like do something fun that you like, even for like one day, but a couple of days. And I swear, like with that rest and like even allow yourself to be lazy, like do the thing that you want to do, have fun, do something completely unrelated to work, and you will come back more motivated and more inspired with all these like big ideas, and probably be so much more efficient then when you do work than continuing to force yourself to sit at a computer when you're not being productive anyways.
Yeah, and not creative.
Yeah.
And you need to like, whether you believe in the law of attraction or not. Do you believe in the law of attraction? Like I said, you're a spiritual person.
Yeah.
Like the most important thing is you feel good.
Yeah.
Like when you do your work, like it's really important that you're in a nice state, because people who buy your things or consume your content or whatever you put out in the world, like the state you are in matters.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure you feel good.
Yeah.
I don't know who feels good by like sitting for 15 hours in front of it.
No, I completely agree.
Computer. And as I also, and I'm curious to hear your point on that, for me things changed when I stopped being a solopreneur, when I started to become a team player and like ask people for help and ask them for advice and invest into mentors, coaches, buy courses, I bought your course, by the way. I think you know, right?
Yes, I
I'm like,
do.
I'm probably the only man inside of
You and a handful of others
yeah,
that are not.
I want to meet
I
every
know.
single-
Honestly, I'm so impressed by like the men that enroll that are not turned off by like the girly branding. It's
Yeah.
like, and the amount of men that are like, is this still going to work for me? I'm like, the content applies to anybody. Yes, there's some pink inside the you know,
very
the
pink.
branding of it, but
No, I think if you are somewhat self-reflected, and you worked on yourself, like just ignore it.
yeah.
Who cares whether it's pink or red?
Yeah.
I'm here for the
For the content,
For the
yeah.
content, like you could wear a pink hat. I wouldn't care. I think even more men should buy a course.
Well, let's clip that soundbite. He said it.
I'll get the $5 afterwards,
Perfect.
right, for saying that.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. My affiliate commission. Brilliant. It's so hard when you are in this loop of the working. It's just the regret is so painful when you sit there and you at the end of your life and you look like, oh my gosh, I worked the whole time.
Yeah.
And you can work and like do things that are really meaningful and important to you, but also sometimes it's just really to not feel lonely or to not feel this feeling of like I'm not enough, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And so you just work the whole time.
Well, because like you said, it'll never be enough. I mean, if you're looking for anything outside of yourself to like give you that confirmation, whether it's like amount of work or a relationship or money, it's like if you're not going to be able to give those things to yourself or figure out a way to feel those feelings on your own, there's no amount of that external thing that's going to give that to you. So
That's what people think.
Yeah.
They think once I make that much money,
all my problems will be gone. I'm going to be so happy. And it's like, and I think that's like such a good manifestation hack too. Like all of those things that you think, the money, the G-Wagon, the house, all of the things and feelings you think those things are going to give you, you have access to those feelings
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
So how can you practice feeling those things right now without having the money or, you know, what can you do right here, right now to practice that feeling? I mean, a lot of times that's literally visualizing, sitting in silence. It doesn't cost money, but you can feel those feelings right now, and it takes practice. But I think that's, number one, the quickest way to magnetize those things that you want to you in the first place. But also then, once you get those things, you actually will feel happy and excited because you aren't looking to those things to like fill some hole inside of you.
Exactly, 1
Yeah.
million %, because here's the news, people also cry in G-Wagons.
Oh, yeah.
People also have this like feeling of it's not enough with a cigar in their mouth and a Rolex on their wrist.
Yeah.
Like it's, people think like, oh, once I'm a millionaire, then everything. How many like broke millionaires do you know? Like, I mean, like emotionally
Yeah.
broke.
Yeah.
Have all of the things and still, I can tell you just in my circle, the amount of people who have so much money but can't take a holiday, not because they can't afford it, but because they're so scared of like not working.
Yeah.
It's not that the it's like, you know, this whole idea of once I have this, I'll be happy, I'll be so grateful. Just give me the money, just give me the success. Then I'll be so happy and grateful. No, it's not gonna happen.
No, it's like you're in a different kind of prison then that
Yeah.
you created for yourself if you can't take a break from it.
A golden prison.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Looks. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I would rather sit in a golden prison.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no,
than there,
totally.
great.
It's just like-
but at some point, you will have to work on, you know, yourself, your own identity, and become okay with whatever is right now. Even the hut, even the hut or wherever you are right now. Like, hey, it's good right now. It's a skill.
Yeah.
It's a skill. Lazy millionaire. Do you sometimes get shit for that name?
Not really shit, but I think a lot of people either are confused by it because they're like, you're not lazy. Or I think, like I said before, it is just kind of, the word lazy is really triggering to people. And I know that also because it used to trigger me, like being called lazy. I thought that was like the worst thing that you could be called. And so kind of rebranding to that is sort of my like way to reclaim the word and kind of change what it means, because I don't like, in hustle culture, being lazy is the worst thing that you can be, because it's like you're unproductive and you're not, contributing to society. You're never going to be successful. You're never going to make money. And it's like, but what if you can actually relax, enjoy your life, prioritize the things that are important to you, and make money at the same time? Well, the way that you do that is by being strategic in the way that you work and not working 24 hours a day. I mean, everything that we've been talking on this podcast. So that's kind of like the meaning behind it. And I try and explain that, frequently, so that people kind of get what the meaning actually is. But yeah, I don't get a lot of shit for it. Just kind of people get a little bit triggered.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
People always, I think that is a problem in society right now. People are like, oh, this is triggering me. Okay, so you can run through life like this, being triggered all the time and wanting everybody else to change,
Yeah.
or
Be like, why does that trigger me?
Why does that trigger you? I'm sure I think in the early days, I don't know if you still do it, you also showed your income, how much you make. And when people hear that, I'm sure many of them are triggered.
Yeah.
Because when you see what was the best day in your life in terms of numbers?
The biggest day was 150,000.
In a single day?
In a single day.
Okay.
Which
is, I think, for me, when I hear that, I'm hyped. I told you in the beginning, when I see those numbers, when I see you doing this, as a man, I'm like, yes, you go, girl. I want to learn from you.
Thank you.
That's what I do internally.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are other people thinking like, that can't be real.
Yeah.
Like, how's this even real?
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like I have really cultivated a really, really positive audience. I think 99% of the people, when I do post an income report, have a response like you, which is like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting, this is so inspiring. And that's the reason why I wanted to show it in the first place, because to be honest, at the beginning of my business, what showed me that my dreams were possible was other people doing that. So I was like, it was actually scary, because I was like, what are my friends and family, like, are they going to think I'm bragging? Are they going to think that I'm
Will they start asking me for money?
Literally, like, is this dangerous to do? Like, are people going to think that I'm, I don't know, just so conceited now? But I was like, no, I have to do this, because I don't think I would have been able to achieve these kinds of numbers if I didn't see other people sharing their numbers when I started. So, yeah.
No, I maybe as a mirror right now, like when I saw that, it was like when 2021, 2022, like when I saw those numbers, they were like, this is really inspiring. Nice that this is possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, do you know the 4-Minute Mile story by Roger Bannister? Like, once you see someone else doing it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is possible for me.
Yeah.
And I don't ever, when anybody shares about their income, I don't feel triggered. I feel inspired.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a big fat you problem. Yasmin always says that. When someone gets triggered, she's like, sounds like a you problem.
Sounds like a you problem. Yeah.
Sounds like a you problem. Like, what's wrong with it? Their businesses all the time talking about how much revenue they make, right? So when there is a personal brand talking about, this is how much I make, it's like, oh, you shouldn't be talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. So 150,000 a day, do you have like problems sometimes like holding it? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? She's
no.
Like, no.
No, it doesn't. No, I mean, I think, and I know that is a common like
I have it sometimes. Like, where I'm from, we had like, I don't want to say nothing because I grew up in Germany and we had food and shelter, but it was one person providing for a lot of kids, not having a lot of money. So for me, that sometimes it's just still like.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's many different types of like money blocks that I think prevent people from making money, from saving money, from like keeping money. And I'm not like, I don't have that one. I don't have trouble keeping it, but I almost have the opposite. And this is something I've had to work through. And this is very tied to like me living as a minimalist, is that I almost like, I'm able to make a lot of money. I am more tightly like, I'm not as much of a free spender. Like I'm much more careful with like the purchases that I make because I want to keep it. But I also know that in order to generate a lot of money, you actually need to circulate money, which means like if you're just like holding on to everything that you have and never investing in, education, whatever it is that you want, your health, courses, coaching, like that money, you're never going to be able to generate more of it, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's money is meant to be circulated. So whether, you're holding on to all of it, that can be a money block, or if you're spending everything that you have, that can also be like, that can be indicative of like your level of self-worth, of feeling like maybe I'm not meant to be rich. If you don't identify as a person who has money, like I think a lot of times that's common too.
Yeah, no, I have the same thing. Not the, I don't struggle spending money on Mini Coopers for others.
Wait, did you buy somebody a Mini Cooper?
I would have.
Oh, wow. Hope she's listening to this. Did you just give her a look in the camera? That's a nice gift.
I'm a romantic.
Yeah.
I know I'm only going to live once in this body, and whatever. It's just, at the end of the day, it's just money. And at the end of your life, you think that everything is yours. None of this is.
Yeah.
You're going to leave, and it's not that I think people think that sometimes, like you can take all of the money and all of the houses and the Gucci bag and whatever, you can take it with you into the next life. It's not the case. It's all going to stay here, right? Yeah. I'm a big fan. One of the best pieces of advice about money that I've ever received was 10% of your income, put it automatically away, invest it into low-cost index funds. There's this book I read, Money Master the Game. I don't know if you know, brilliant book. 10%, I started doing that pretty young in my life. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I know while I'm sleeping, this thing is working for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do anything. I could, if I would go back to my minimalistic lifestyle, now say, I'm not going to do anything and just live off the returns from that. And I'm 29. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Good that I listened to this advice. So I'm all for it. Let's put money aside. Let's invest it. That's what I'm working on right now. A certain part of it just spent on something.
Yeah.
Instead of like, I'm going to save this because I want to build this, and this house, I'm saving it for this. And maybe next year, for the first time, I'm spending something on money on something materialistic, whether it's a Mini Cooper, not sure if that's happening, but I'm turning 30 next year, and I'm thinking of making myself a birthday gift.
I think you should.
In form of a Porsche Taycan.
Oh, I think that you should. You can talk to Eric about that. But I think
he likes Porsche?
He had a Porsche Taycan. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
What happened to it?
Well, it's funny because he bought it in, I'm trying to remember when, like maybe 2 years ago. But we both work from home, and we had these two like really nice cars, and that we weren't driving like maybe a couple times a week. So we just sold it and then we actually invested the money that we made from it. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say another, like, I love your mindset around, or just kind of non-attachment to money. And I also think that actually, and this is like something that I have worked on and I've truly seen it work, is like feeling joy from spending money and investing in things that like contribute to your happiness. So not expecting those things to make you happy, but like, for example, I really get a lot of joy and pleasure from going to the spa. Like, it's relaxing. I love it. I do it multiple times a week. And I genuinely know that investing in myself and my health and my mindset and my relaxation in that way makes me more money. So it's like, if you can find those things, I think sometimes it's not always like when you're spending money, that money is gone. Actually, it circulates. And if it gives you more energy, or, I mean, maybe your Porsche Taycan like will give you more motivation to work harder, or, you know, whatever. You just never know.
Think
I think
bigger.
or think bigger, or like embody this like next level version of yourself when you're driving that car. Like, there are a lot of things that money actually can, you know, make you richer if you spend on.
This podcast is relatively young, and if you want to support our mission to give you access to the most extraordinary minds, to the most helpful success recipes, well, then you can do something that takes about 3.5 seconds, which is to subscribe to this podcast. Gives us the ability to give you access to the most amazing guests. So just click on that button, helps a lot, takes 3.5 seconds. Thank you so much, and I'll see you later. Also, sometimes I think like, okay, I could stay in the smallest darkest place and save as much as possible. I have this one friend, he makes so much money, but he never spends a dime.
Yeah.
I remember we went on a holiday and he rented a car. I'm like, mate, this car, I'm not sure if I'm safe here. I'm not going to drive with it anymore because I think it's going to kill us. Like, it's going to fall apart. You have so much money. Why don't you get a nice car? Or like a car that's safe. Let's start with it.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just like, no, I need to save. I'm like, okay. So you said something important there, spend it on something you actually love spending it on. And I sometimes catch myself spending it on things that I don't like.
Yeah.
That's when I feel like, is that really... I noticed like when I went to New York, for example, there were a couple of things like, yeah, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Like I can, but
Yeah.
no. For me, it's same spa, tennis. I don't even know how much money I spend on tennis.
Yeah.
But probably like I don't care because it brings me so much
Yeah.
joy. I could also choose the cheapest gym and save everything, but I'm like, there needs to be a fine balance between like you're saving and you actually enjoy life, and it actually makes you more like when I rent, for example, or like living somewhere, I could choose a tinier place and I would be okay. But those beautiful architecture just does something with me. Like I think better, I feel better, therefore I create better work.
Yeah. So you are getting a return on your investment when you're spending that. And I think that's something, it's this concept from this guy, Ramit Sethi, I think is his name. It's called Your Rich Life. Like everybody has their own version of a rich life. So for some people, like it's going to be spending money at nice restaurants because that genuinely makes them happy and feel good. And like it is the reason why we want to have money is because we want it to increase those good feelings, right? To me, like I don't really care to spend a lot of money at nice restaurants. Like that just doesn't do it for me. But like spas or traveling, or you like living in a nice place. So figuring out kind of like what that thing is for you. And then you like, even if you have a lot of money, that doesn't mean that you need to go out and spend. Like also, I don't know, like.
Yeah, $25,000 on a wine bottle. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I
mean,
like,
if that's your thing, go for it. No judgment, but like it's not mine. And yeah, I think that's
25,000 for a headache.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's not.
It seems like a lot to me.
But tennis or like a good Pilates class, yes, I'll take my money.
Tennis, nice clothes. Does the job for me as well.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on everybody. But it's nice to know that you also still have your money things to work on.
Yeah.
What would you say were the biggest mindset shifts that you did, let's say, from having those 10K days to 150K days? Like what happened? Is it mainly like you learned a skill or you shifted something inside of you? Just broke the microphone, right? That's okay.
Breaking things, sorry.
You can slide it over.
Okay, like mindset shifts.
Like what changed? I'm always curious. The podcast is called Success Leaves Clues.
Yeah.
I always wondered like what changed? What happened?
Okay,
was there like one moment or was it like an ongoing procedure?
I feel like it was a combination of a few different things. I don't really think it was just one thing. But yeah, I mean, the scaling that has happened over time, like there's a couple different things when I think about it that I could contribute it to. I mean, one, and I know this is like probably something that nobody wants to hear, but just consistency and time. Like when I first started, like I think I told you, like the first course launch I ever did, it was a couple $1,000s maybe. And I have a lot of students who come to me and they're disappointed because they make a couple thousand, 5,000 on their first launch. And they're like, oh, like I'm not doing like the same numbers as you. And I'm like, you literally just started. Like that's amazing. You have to,
Perspective slap.
Yeah, exactly. And like, imagine if after that first launch, I had just been like, well, that sucks. It's not as good as those other people. So I'm just going to give up. Like I would never be where I am now. So I think consistency over time and just like, what is that saying that's like every day try and get like 1% better? Yeah. Like don't try and make $100,000 by tomorrow, but like what can you do today that's going to make you 1% better than yesterday? You know, so like continuing to be consistent. Over that time, I really did focus on my one core offer as well, which now is Online Course Academy. And that obviously teaches people how to create their own profitable online course. But I think when I was having like lower revenue numbers, it was like I was kind of trying to do a lot of different things. I was promoting like 4 different courses at once. So I think my audience was like a little bit confused, like what do I want? Is this right for me? Is this not? But when I really focused on one thing, I noticed a lot of growth. Also, my audience grew over that time. So, I mean, that obviously helped with sales as well. But in terms of like mindset, I'm trying to think of like the most impactful thing that I did in terms of mindset. I mean, really just continuing to work on like the money mindset stuff was really big for me. And also challenging the beliefs that like you have to work really hard in order to make a lot of money. Like I've always been kind of challenging myself, like how little can I do with like the most outcome, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. I had that conversation recently with one of my one-on-one clients who has a baby now.
Yeah.
She's a mother. And we are looking at, okay, exactly what you just said. So we only have a couple of hours per day. What can we do? What are the needle movers? What is the main thing? Because when you have a baby, you want to, she's like, I want to spend time with my baby.
Right.
And we're like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Duh. So little time possible. What are the needle movers? She had her baby and she just sold her biggest offer yet, her biggest month ever after having the baby, working way less. Instead of 10 hours, 3 hours.
I honestly think that if you don't have a lot of time, it is actually a benefit. Mm-hmm. And that's such a mindset shift for a lot of people who think like, oh, in order to create a business, I need to quit my job first. It's like, no, actually, and I know this because I was working a serving job when I started my business. I had like 2 or 3 hours in the morning. And so I got such like good work done during that time because it was limited. And if you just have like all this free time, then you might find yourself spending 3 hours deciding on a Canva font, but if you really like hone in that time, you can figure out like, okay, I need to be really efficient during these 2 to 3 hours. It's funny too, because that you said your client is, I had another OCA student who, this has actually happened a couple times, where I have an OCA student who enrolls like when they're pregnant. And so they have like this timeline of, I need to get my course done and launched before this baby comes because I want to be like making money and take a break and still be making passive income when my baby's here. Yeah. And it's just like insane, that motivation really helps people get it done.
Yeah, urgency.
Urgency.
Yeah. And it's really strong why. I mean,
totally.
If you have a baby or someone to provide for, can, not for everybody, but can create a lot of urgency. I mean, at the end of the day, it's in your head, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, because it's like...
Because there are also some parents who don't give a fuck.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, and also, like, you can create that same urgency for yourself without having a baby, obviously.
Exactly.
It's like,
no. No,
I'm not telling you to go get knocked up if you don't want to, but, like...
But if you want
to, that's great. But for me, like, I would be like, I don't like to set strict deadlines for myself because I'm like kind of a rebel. So if I have a deadline, then I immediately don't want to hit it. But I'll be like, I have a general like, okay, I can get this done in the next 2 to 3 months type of thing. Yeah. And I like am motivated to hit that. So, I mean, anybody can kind of harness that energy, I think.
Yeah, definitely. You're a rebel. Me too, by the way.
Yeah.
There's this, I know you talk about it inside of OCA for Tendency by, what's her name?
Gretchen Rubin. Yeah.
It's a good test that everybody can do. Yeah. I started doing it with, when I hire people. Like I want
to see what they are.
Because I know what I am.
Yeah.
And I know what kind of people I usually like to have in my team. Not rebels.
No, I think there's really only room for like one rebel in every team, unfortunately. But
rebels are great. They're like thinking outside the box and are amazing people. But I'm not sure if you want them.
Yeah,
Too many of them.
Yeah. Well, it's like I feel like it actually makes for a good entrepreneur because I mean, most rebels, I think they are rebels and they don't want to work a regular job because they don't like outer accountability. They don't like somebody telling them this is when you need to come to the office. This is when you need to like that.
You should wash the dishes. No,
I'll do it when I want to do it.
Or if someone. If someone would help me with the dishes, that would make me feel so special. And I'm like, let me help you. Of course, I'm here, but don't tell me.
Yeah, but don't tell me. Oh my God, I'm the exact same way. That's so funny.
Yeah, we could speak for like 2 days about the 4 tendencies. It's a brilliant test.
It is a really good one.
It's a brilliant test. So if I just try to recap, the things that really helped you was, you mentioned this visualization practice in the morning. You mentioned working on your own money blocks. You mentioned being a rebel, having kids, having a strong why. I think that's really important. Having a bit of urgency also.
Yeah.
You didn't say quit your job and throw all eggs into one basket. That's also like, I don't know how many different jobs I worked.
Yeah.
But something that stood out for me is create this inner satisfaction already now. And that's a skill that you develop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, like people, when they hear my story about the hut, I think they think I must have like hated that. And it must have been such a grind and so terrible. And I look back in that time and I'm like, I liked it. I mean, it was obviously very different than the lifestyle I live now, but in that time, I was so grateful for like, I lived in Hawaii. So like, yeah, I didn't have a lot. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of physical possessions, but like, I still had this beautiful island that I could enjoy while I worked on something that I enjoyed. And I cultivated those feelings of happiness and freedom then, even before I had them. And I think that is what allowed me to like manifest the life that I eventually wanted now too. So, yeah.
What is your advice if someone comes to you and says like, Amie, good for you. Right now, I'm just really freaking struggling. I'm posting, I'm doing the things, I'm building my course. It feels like none of this is working. I'm so frustrated. What to do?
So, are you familiar with human design?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you know what your energy type is?
Yeah, of course.
What is it?
Manifesting generator.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm a generator. But even for people who aren't familiar with human design, the question makes me think of that because I really believe that if you feel consistently frustrated, like you're working so hard and nothing is happening, and you're doing all of the quote unquote right things, and you've done them consistently, and you're not seeing any success, I think a lot of times that's indicative of you trying to live a way that somebody told you should, or you're trying to do the things that whoever guru told you should to be successful, rather than like listening to your own inner guidance of the way that you want to do things. So what I mean by that is like, and even me, like I have found a lot of success growing my audience on Instagram. I don't necessarily think that that's everybody's route to success.
Yeah.
Some people, like maybe you've been posting every day to Instagram Reels for the last year and you haven't seen any growth, you haven't made any sales, but deep down you're like, oh, I really want to start a podcast. Like I see all these people doing that and that sounds so fun, but like I'm never going to grow my audience that way. I can never make money that way. It's like, maybe you should try and do the thing that like your inner voice is telling you should do, because I really 100% believe that is the way that you're going to be successful, is like doing the thing in the unique way that you want to do it, rather than like listening to every other expert out there and what they tell you should do. And also just like beware of anybody who tells you there's only one route to being successful.
When you hear that, run.
Yeah. Because even like me, I'm like, I'll tell anybody everything that I did because I want other people to like take bits and pieces of what works for you, what doesn't. But do I think that like exactly what I did is going to work for every single person? No, because we're all different.
Yeah. You just mentioned something I learned recently. The heart of a baby, the heart was first, then the brain developed. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
And you just mentioned like kind of something that you could put on a mug. Stay in your heart, not your head.
Yeah.
And like you have this inner guidance. I just heard that from you, that this is like how you make decisions. Like this is the right thing for me. This feels really right.
Yeah.
I just to add to this. So I played a lot of different sports, and I know the attitude you have when you play a sport, even before the game starts, has a massive impact on your outcome. So if someone comes to me with the frustration thing, I know this is the first thing we need to work on.
Yeah.
Because if you go into a tennis match like this, it's not gonna work, and this is all shit, and everything sucks, and I'm so bad, don't think you create like a upward spiral and you go into a flow. No, of course not. You're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Like you're just gonna lose. That's just how it is. So you really comes back to like, you need to be happy with whatever freaking situation you're in right now. Accepting it. Like you need to accept that it is what it is right now, and now create the freaking life you want.
Yeah, and also just to add to that too, like for me, I think sometimes it's hard for me to like, if I'm feeling frustrated, it's hard for me to like think my way out of a feeling. So like what works for me a lot of times is literally to like move my body, like I don't play, like go for a run, go to Pilates, and
did you want to say listen to Taylor Swift?
Dance to Taylor Swift? No, literally, that would be the one thing. Wait, you didn't ever go to a concert, right?
No, I really wanted to.
I'm telling you, it is a spiritual experience. Anybody who has been and loves Taylor Swift, like you would so get it. I have never been. I imagine this is what people like who love going to like a mega church. Like I'm assuming you get the same feeling, but like everybody who's there is like so high vibe, singing the same songs. Like literally I have chills just like thinking about it because it is just like it is a spiritual experience. I can't explain it any other way, and people probably think I'm crazy for saying that unless you've experienced it too. But you have to go.
Yeah, well, I will.
Life changing.
You know, inside of our business, 90% of our clients are female. And we are trying to attract more male figures, if that makes sense. Yeah. So my team was like, well, Axel, maybe stop talking about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you're attracting a lot of women.
Yeah, I'm attracting a lot of women for some reason. So I'm starting to smoke cigars and
doing the manly things, drink some
like,
beers.
What is that cigar thing about? I don't understand. Like, do whatever you want, but why? Like, it's like a copy everywhere. Cigars and a Lamborghini.
And a lot of meat.
Yeah,
on a charcuterie plate. I see a lot of
I mean,
carnivore.
I'm not hating. Do whatever
me
you
either.
want.
I mean, I'm a meat eater, but I just feel like it's funny, like the things that indicate like I'm a masculine man.
Yeah. And I love that about men. They're like, oh, listen, I don't listen to Taylor Swift. And then I did that. I saw it happening. We're like somewhere, and Taylor Swift was playing. Like I filmed undercover a couple of men, just like everybody knew the lyrics.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Well, that it is just like so interesting to me too, and how like bringing it back to before, how like the only negative comments I get are from men. It's like, what is so triggering to many masculine men about Taylor Swift? Like what about her do they not like? Is it because she's like super successful?
Because she makes more
super
money
rich?
than you?
Yeah, it's like maybe that's a big
I think
fat
it's
you
even,
problem.
Like sounds like a you problem. Yeah. I love it when people are even like, oh, she can't sing. Or I'm like, first of all, who are you to judge? Are you a musician? Like, do you have any background?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Can you sing?
Can you sing? How about that? But yeah, I think. I don't know. Well, I met Eric. He's amazing, so I don't think he has a problem with it. But I know many men would have a problem if their partner make more money than.
People ask me that a lot. Like, is he
jealous?
Like, is he emasculated? Is he jealous? Like, no, he loves it. I mean, it benefits him too.
Yeah, it's us. Who gives a damn?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, honestly, and that is, I feel like a privilege that I definitely have had from the start is that he has always been so supportive of me. And I think that's just a testament to also like the people that you surround yourself with, because I honestly like I feel like I am so powerful like in this business that I've created, but I also have even from the start like a lot of fears and a lot of doubts, and like he was always there to be like, no, I believe in you. Like, I believe that you can do this. And like, I am like, I don't know if I didn't have somebody in my corner, like cheering me on like this, like, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, you never know, but I just think, and it's like not to say that you need to have a partner in order to do that, but just like having somebody around you that believes in you is, I think, really important. Or at least just like making sure that the people you follow on social media are like providing that inspiration for you and showing you what is possible and that you can do it.
What are the fears and doubts you have right now?
Fears and doubts I have right now? I think that, that's a good question. I think as the biggest struggle for me, I think, is like, I really like to be like feeling like I'm doing something innovative and different and exciting. And I think I've never really like talked about this. So you're getting the exclusive tea.
Yeah. I also heard you don't do podcasts often. I feel really honored.
I don't. But I was excited for this one. But I think, and things, especially with online business, like change so frequently. And I feel like the point I'm at right now, I feel like a lot of people are doing very similar things. I think there's a lot of people teaching online courses, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I take that to be inspiration of like, it's time for the next step, because I want to be on the forefront of something different. And I just kind of feel like also the thing I love about being an entrepreneur is like, I actually enjoy like being bad at things and getting better at them and like seeing the progress. It's almost like tennis. Like there's something so exciting to me about playing and not being great, because it is like, oh, I can work at this every single day and reach a level of excellence if I stick to it. And I feel like I've kind of done that with online courses and my business right now to a certain extent. And I'm kind of like, ooh, like what can I start off and be like a little bit bad at for a while and like practice and like get better at and like reach a new level of excellence. I don't know if that makes sense, but like that.
No, it does make sense to me. For some people, they would sit here and like, Amie, what the heck are you talking about?
Like you want to be bad at things? But I also think if you can embrace that mentality as a new entrepreneur, like let it be bad. Be bad at things for a while. You can't, like when you first start, it's not going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's
enjoy, and it's all about like enjoying the process.
And
like,
please take a lot of pictures of you being bad at it. Okay, you can use it as testimonials afterwards. Like I see the same thing. I'm like, I get so excited when someone is like, I'm just getting started. This is so bad. I'm like, yeah, man, that's the most exciting part.
Yeah.
Like that's you will never experience that much growth probably again.
Yeah.
Like that is such a wonderful time, but it's so scary for people. It's so scary to just show your face online. If we talk about like online business, it's scary to start, scary to face the judgment. That's the number one thing I hear from people online. I don't know how it is for in your bubble.
Yeah,
like I'm so scared what my friends will say. I'm so scared what my ex-partner will say.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like literally the most common. People, I get so many questions of people are like, can I do this without showing my face? I'm like, you can do whatever you want. But this is what I would ask you is like, as you go through life and especially in business, are you more concerned with how other people perceive you, or are you more concerned with how you feel inside? Because that's what got me over the hump is like, yeah, I'm so like, people are going to like judge me from doing this thing nobody understands, showing my face on social or whatever. But am I going to feel good about the fact that I did it anyways? Yes. And that is more important to me than like whatever anybody else thinks. I mean, same thing with living in the hut. I was like, people are going to think that I'm like broke and struggling, but is this going to get me to where I want to be? Yes. And I am always going to prioritize like myself and my own feelings over all these people, especially like people you don't know or people you went to high school with that you're never going to probably see in person again. Like, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to then actually do it. And what helped me is this stupid 3-second rule. It's called the 5-second rule. Mel Robbins wrote the book, but I have difficulties counting to 5, so no, I'm very.
So it's 3.
So it's 3. A bit impatient.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, okay, if I make it 3 seconds, even better. Like I start moving faster. So I just honestly, if I want to do something and there is resistance, whether it's posting something, whether it's talking to a person in real life that I want to speak to, I go 3, 2, 1, and I just make the first step. And sometimes there's just garbage coming out of my mouth, but at least I said something.
Yeah.
And I can tell you something. Most of the times, it doesn't even matter what you say at the beginning. Once you're getting in, you're like, oh my gosh, actually, this is not too bad. No fear is there forever.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna go away. And yeah. I mean, if you can embrace even the beginning when you like suck at something, you just talked about it as if it would be the most exciting thing in the world.
Well, I think it's fun to like have something to work on, like that is exciting to you. And it's like I used to be an athlete too. Like I'd play soccer and I would always be like trying to juggle a certain amount with the ball. And so like every day when I would get like one more than the previous day, like that just would make me so excited. And it's like the same thing. It's like, oh, this reel that I posted just did a little bit better than like anything else I've ever posted before. Like that's so cool. I'm going to learn, from that and continue to grow. So
that's a growth mindset. That's literally the definition of growth mindset. I'm going to ignore that word you used. What was that? Soccer? What does that mean?
Soccer?
Yeah.
What is it?
What
Are
is
you kidding?
soccer?
I was like, football? Sorry, it's football.
Tell me you're American without telling me you're American. No. It's okay. For today, we'll call it soccer. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be the voice right now for the men and women out there who have this big dream, this big calling. Their heart is screaming, I want to do this. I want to help people. Like, I could think of 20 people right now who would say, like, Axel, I have this calling. I want to do something. I want to inspire women. I want to help them. I want to do my own thing. I don't want to work for somebody else. I'm a rebel. Mm-hmm. And I know what I want, but I'm so freaking scared. I'm not good enough. My friends will judge me. My family will judge me. What if I do something wrong? And sometimes with clients it's easy for me, but like with friends, I'm like, I wish I could do it for you, but I can't. So what is the cheat code? What would you tell them?
I mean, well, when I was hearing you say like, what if people judge me? What if I do something wrong? It's like, what if you just accepted that those things probably will happen? I mean, to be like kind of harsh about it, yeah, people will judge you. You probably will get negative comments. You probably will mess up, and that's okay. But if you can just like accept those things from the start, not like if that's gonna happen, like it will. Yeah. So are you gonna do it anyways, or are you gonna let that dream like die because you're just afraid of all these things happen that like they're going to happen? Those things have all happened to me. I'm sure they've happened to you. You know,
1 million times.
It's just kind of like comes with living out your dream and doing something that most people are honestly too scared to do. You just have to kind of accept that piece of it too.
Yeah, I think we have the key here.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And now what?
Yeah.
I think it comes back to the like, have you heard this slogan, everything is figure outable?
Yes, I love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Marie Forleo. Right? Everything is figure outable. And I also mean it in terms of like inner space, whatever situation. I have this core belief in my body, whatever comes my way, I will always find a solution.
Yeah.
And if I can't find a solution, I'll find someone who knows the solution.
100%.
And if I can't find a person, ChatGPT knows the solution.
Literally, that is the mindset of a successful person, though. I like truly believe that. Even like I have the dumbest example, but like this morning at breakfast,
I want to hear it.
I wanted and this maybe is a weird drink order, but like I don't like a matcha latte. I like a matcha water. So it's like not. So basically, they take the matcha powder and they just put water. So it's more like a tea rather than a latte, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not judging you.
And okay, thank you. Well, even if you did, I'd still drink it. So, I ordered it at this restaurant and they were like, no, we can't do that because when we make it, we have the matcha and then we pour the milk in. And I'm like, okay, I know that that's not on the menu, but like, could you just ask them if they could do water instead? And they literally told me no like 4 times. And I stayed really polite and I'm like, oh, like actually the way that you make it is you just mix water in instead of the milk. And eventually they were like, okay, we can do it. And I'm like, thank you. It's just, I think sometimes like you have to be persistent, like ask if you're not getting the yes that you want, ask somebody else or go to somebody else or try it a different way. Like you just have this, I think every successful person has this like drive to like have everything be figure outable.
Yeah, there is a way. Okay,
yeah, there's always a way.
This didn't work on the next one. It's like I think honestly, playing football or soccer teaches you that as well, because you try to basically score and you try 20 times and it works out maybe twice.
Yeah.
So you're getting okay with like, okay, well.
Yeah.
It's not failure, it's just like another door.
Exactly, yeah.
How are we on time? Do you have another 10, 15 minutes? Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm good until 2:30.
2:30?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just because I have a couple of final questions that I always ask.
No, perfect.
Where are you going next to the spa?
I wish. I have a call.
Oh, you have
Another call. This is a busy day for me.
Oh my goodness.
This is a lot of work for one day.
Okay, fantastic. The best piece of advice. So the podcast is called Success Leaves Clues. One day I want to write a book, maybe for my kids. If I don't have kids, then for other people's kids, and put the best advice in terms of health, wealth, relationships into that book and hand it over. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received? You can choose a category, but like one piece of advice you've received that changed your life.
The first thing that comes to mind, I mean, I'm sure there's a million different things. The first thing that comes to mind is that jealousy is actually a really helpful feeling, emotion, and it can tell you a lot about yourself. So, for example, like, I remember, like, way back before I started my business, and this was like when Instagram was very new, and like people who were traveling the world, like digital nomads, I would feel so jealous of them because they were like living this lifestyle where they could just have the freedom to go wherever they want. And like, how are they making the money to do that? Like, I'm so jealous. Like, I'm at this job that I hate and I don't have the freedom and I only get, a week of vacation a year. And I felt that like jealousy. And then I realized like anything that you're kind of, any other person you're looking at and feeling a bit of jealousy, it usually is an indicator of like a dream inside of you in some way, shape, or form that like you are not living out right now. So it's like you can really look inward when you feel those feelings. Or even like say you see somebody with like a really amazing relationship and you feel kind of jealous. It's like that's probably a core value to you to meet somebody who like has that like relationship, and you can then prioritize that maybe over working so much. Something like that I think it's just can be a really helpful guide in what is going to make you happy in your life and like living out your dreams. So
the worst advice you've ever received, something that should not make it into the book.
That also, there are many. I think kind of what I said before is like any sort of advice that's telling you there's only one way to do things. And if you don't do it that way, you're not going to be successful. Or saying like, you have to do this program if you want to be successful, or you have to do things this way, or you have to post to Instagram and phrase it this way with this type of hook. It's like, okay, maybe that, advice is like a buffet. Take what you want, leave the rest. You don't need to, not every single piece of advice is going to work exactly the same for every single person. So again, like tuning in, becoming friends with your intuition, because I really think that like that's going to give you more good advice than anybody else that you're listening to online.
I'm curious. So sometimes at retreats we do this exercise. We take a piece of paper. It's like an art project, and we put it into two halves. One half, so it's a mountain, right? So you're in the middle. The left side is your life that you've lived right now, with the decisions you made, with the trauma you had, with the challenges you had. And you're here, and then there's the right side. And the end of the right side is basically the end of your life, whenever that is. In 100, 500,000 years, we don't know, right? Maybe, who knows? What do you want to look back at? Like, what do you want to stand for at the end of your life? Like, this would have been a great life if. I went to more Taylor Swift concerts.
Honestly. Well, I mean, just kind of on that note, I think like yes, but also like allowing yourself to do the things that genuinely make you happy, like right now. Stop putting them off for like someday in the future when I have time for that. It's like you have the time right now. You're just choosing not to make it, but that could be anything, like doing the things that you want to do right now, feeling the feelings you want to do right now, and stop putting off those things till later. Because I mean, the truth is none of us know like how much time we have. So like you want to do those things now. And I mean, I hope that somewhere along my journey, I hope like is inspiring to other people to live out their dreams, whatever that looks like, and do the thing that like is on your heart that you're excited to do. Because yeah, maybe it won't look like my life or what I've done. Maybe it's completely different. Maybe you want to have kids and move to a farm. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if that is on your heart to do, go for it. Because I think at the end of your life, like, you're going to have more regrets about the things that you didn't do that you wanted to do than the things that you did that didn't work out. So that's kind of how I look at like every scary decision, to be honest.
The last part you just mentioned, you're already doing it. I think just like I'm a real life testimonial. One thing that I learned from you is a couple of things. One being, you don't have to work harder. Actually work smarter, and really like, what is the main thing here? How can I be a bit more lazy? How can I structure things so that I don't keep repeating myself.
Yeah.
Thinking big and being more of myself, unapologetically myself. And whenever I do that also on social media, because I'm a bit weird.
Me too.
Like,
I feel like if you're not weird, then you're not fully like expressing who you are. Because everybody's weird. Some people just are more out there about
I
it than
just
others.
sing all the time. I'm not who's the judge of it?
Yeah.
But if I'm being honest, a reality check, people reflect, Axel, you're not maybe the best singer. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Who cares?
Who cares? But you just being, from what I see, like I met you obviously in person, spent a couple of tennis matches with you, got to know you. You just unapologetically yourself.
Oh, thanks.
And that is so freaking inspiring. And I mean, just in terms of business and what we do is really meaningful, and you helped us so much. Like, you don't see that, but you know, it's impact you have on me, but also on other people just by, and I'm sure it's true for so many of your students, you know, they learn from you and they go do their own thing and they change lives, but you're part of the whole like ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And I don't know if you often see that, because people that they only post like, or they probably only come to you like, Amie, I made so much money, I had my online course, thank you so much. But they're like real life testimony, like that people change their lives.
Yeah.
That's probably the part which you don't see. And I could be speaking for the next 3.5 hours about the real life transformations that happened because of the programs, because of courses, and I wish sometimes your students would maybe, like, I don't know if they do that, but you know, like, hey, yes, I made that much money, but here are the client results.
Yeah. No, I mean, they do a pretty good, like, amount of both. I mean, and on my podcast, which I kind of have taken a break now for a little while, but for the last like 10 episodes, I've just done student interviews, like talking about it. So obviously we focus on the money a little bit because it's kind of like the, you know, the sexy soundbite. But I also love, I mean, it's just incredible to hear like how many people's lives are impacted, like people that are able to stay home with their kids now, or like pay off a ton of debt, or, you know, help people balance their hormones, or like, you know, there's just so many, like, online courses are the perfect example of like paying it forward, because like you're taking things that maybe were hard for you to learn or that you had to go through the hard way, and then teaching an easier way, like a better method to hundreds, if not thousands of people, like all at the same time. It's like incredible. So
yeah, for me, it's an absolute no-brainer, whether it's a book, a course. Someone had to go through something, learn something for years, puts it into one course. You can watch it literally in a couple of days, and you just saved yourself a couple of days for a couple of years. I think that's a good, like,
yeah.
When I invest into a course, I'm someone who, okay, so when I bought your course, just let me buy it. Or when I buy other people's courses, like, I don't need to ask a gazillion questions. The questions that I'm thinking about is this a positive ROI? Like, when I invest, I'm like, do I get more out of it than I invest? If that's the case, take my money.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask 7 million questions. When are the live calls? When are this and this? I'm like, I'm committed, honey. Like, I don't care. I show up. I'll make it work, because if I would start thinking, do I have the time then and that? But this is already the wrong attitude. Like, but Amie, I want to acknowledge you for being yourself, and really, like, you inspire the hell out of a lot of great people that I know, that you probably are not aware of. But I tell you, like, you're doing a fantastic job, if I may say that.
Well, thank you. So are you.
Thank you.
I accept your compliment. Thank you very much. I'm working on that. I need to accept first and not just give it back to you. But I genuinely feel the same about you. So,
is there one piece of advice? We have two minutes left here. If you know me a little bit, is there one piece of advice that you have from me, like something that I don't see right now? You can be brutally honest. Get a new cousin. Just kidding.
What'd you say? Get a new cousin? No.
Cousin, if you're watching, I love you.
I love the cousins. I don't know.
What's the first thought?
Something. Wait, advice. Something that
to me,
that like you could be doing better, or
yeah. Or maybe something I don't see. I think I've never done that before.
I don't don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I generally, like, I guess I don't really, like, think that way about people. Like, I think that, like, the path, whatever you're doing right now is perfect. I don't know if that's, like, very kind of, like, woo-woo, but I feel like you're doing things the way that you're supposed to be doing them. Like, there's nothing that, and who's to say that, like, I know something that you're doing that you don't, you know? I don't know.
Well, maybe that's the advice I needed to hear right now.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
If I would have to give it, it surprised me, honestly, that you, not the last part, how spiritual you are and how much of your success story is apparently about making hard decisions instead of head decisions. How much of your success story is about tapping into being happy with what is right now. Yeah. And embracing the journey and embracing the growth steps. And when you said, like, for me, that was the biggest aha moment of this interview. I was happy in the hut. Yeah. And I'm happy in the G-Wagon.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I love the G-Wagon. But I was also still happy in the hut. And I think I do think that is, like, surprising to people.
Yeah. But I do think that's the key.
Yeah, I do too.
Amie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you had fun.
I did have a lot of fun.
Good.
No, speaking of intuition, I always listen to that, because sometimes if I get the, like, no, I really don't want to do this thing, then I won't do it. But this, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do it. And
I'm really grateful
it ended up being
did.
really fun.
I think a lot of people got a lot of value out of it.
So.
I'm obviously going to put all your links in the in the description below. Links to OCA. I know you have a free training that people watch. I watched the same training. I think
we have a new one now too. We've actually got two, so they're both shorter.
Okay.
One is for if you don't have an online course and you want to learn more about, like, choosing a course topic and getting started and, like, having your first course sale in the next, like, 30 days, and also growing your audience. So we've got one training for that, and we also have another training for people who already have an online course, but it's not selling. So I can give you the links for both of those.
Yeah, please. We'll put it in the description down below.
Perfect.
I mentioned a couple times, it's one of the courses I've done. I believe in there's so much abundance, and there's never, like, friends, for example, I never see as competition.
Yeah.
I think that's something we should have we cover in the next interview in 17 years when we go to a Taylor Swift concert together.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll put all of your links in the description below. Amie, thank you so much for your time. And I'll see you soon.
Okay.
I really hope you enjoyed today's episode, just as a little gift from our side, from my team, because you stayed until the end of this episode. 30 days of free Fire Within membership. I created the Fire Within membership to give you guys access to the tools that have changed my life, the lives of my clients, and give you also access to a community of like-minded people. We have guided breathwork sessions, guided meditations, guided visualization practices, really tools that enable you to create the life that you deserve and that you want. And it's one of the best things we have ever created. Hundreds of people, live events, sessions that will blow your mind. 30 days for free. You will find the link in the description. Thank you so much, and until next time.